It seems to me pretty obvious to understand who is behind the international support of Putin. The other question is, what is behind that support? But let's start with who. From my perspective, those are different type of Schroeders and Fillons that are even trying to distance themselves from Putin in this particular moment. But they, as bribed politicians, are behind the decisions that have caused this barbaric war that we are finding ourselves in. Obviously, those are also numerous politicians and numerous international bureaucrats in different international organizations who have been pushing for policy of appeasement of Putin, disregarding the experience of Munich 1938, forgetting and pretending not to really understand the signals that Putin was sending by his actions in Georgia in 2008, by his actions in Ukraine in 2014, his actions in Syria and in other parts of the world. Also, among those who supporting Putin are numerous media representatives, analysts who have been used as so-called useful idiots working on the Moscow money. By the way, the whole concept of useful idiots was created back in the 30s by the USSR and has been used by Kremlin ever since. Kremlin also efficiently has been using the doctrine of hybrid war and has been fighting different countries in the 20th century as well with the same instruments as it is fighting Ukraine in this particular moment. We are talking about Finland, we are talking about Spain, about Vietnam, and other countries in the world. Among those who also are big business owners who prefer to put forward their profits and not to notice even the war crimes of today's Russian regime. And that means that we see their actions even in this dire times today. We see how even in the most comprehensive sanctions that have been introduced, how they are trying to use the loopholes. For example, we understand that this Sberbank mobile app was removed from mobile stores, but we also know that it works very well if it was uploaded earlier. Or, for example, we hear that Visa and MasterCard have stopped their operations in Russia, but they have stopped only issuing new cards, while at the same time they managed to prolong the term of validity of all those cards that have been issued earlier. So this is about who, but what about what? And that first and foremost is the Western energy dependence on Russian Federation. Until it exists, Russia will continue receiving billions of dollars daily, and that will allow it to continue its war against Ukraine, to continue killing our kids, raping our women, destroying our homes, our economy, our country as such. Secondly, the inability and non-readiness of the West to recognize that Putin has started World War III on the territory of Ukraine. And at this particular moment, there is a chance to ensure that this war is not spilling over to other regions. But that means Putin has to be stopped here on the territory of Ukraine. And that means really providing Ukraine urgently, as soon as possible, with real heavy weapons, with everything from fighter jets to heavy artillery to air defense of mid to long range of tanks and other military equipment. And that means really, really comprehensive sanctions without loopholes. And that means a full resolve to continue helping Ukraine until it wins in this particular war. And the third major what is the concept that seems to be preoccupying at this particular moment Western minds, believing that it is Putin himself and only Putin who is guilty of this particular war. And that concept is totally wrong. Because before Putin, there was Stalin. Before Stalin, there was Lenin. Before Lenin, there was some emperor that also participated in the start of the World War I. The whole history of Russian Federation is the history of fighting, conquering wars. 70% of its historic time of its existence, notwithstanding the name of this particular country, it has been fighting wars that would envisage conquering additional territories. It has been living on expansion of its territories and made up external threat. And always, during centuries, Russian population has been supporting its rulers. So therefore, we have to understand that it's not only Putin who is guilty of this war, that it's a collective responsibility of Russians. And it's important to understand that Russia will continue to pose existential threat to the Western civilization until it exists. It poses existential threat not exclusively to Ukraine, but to the whole Western free world. And that means that what has not been finished after the end of the Cold War has to be finished today. And that means that Carthagen has to be destroyed.